Alexander Payne is a director that I love, and it was a dream to get to work with him. So having that be my big debut was really special.
And Matt Damon, not bad.
Yeah, that guy too.
Love scenes.
I know. I was always really embarrassed afterwards during press when people would ask me what it was like to kiss him, and I was like, he's a married man, you guys.
Sorry.
Don't. I really hate you for putting me through this again, you know that? Those last few months before Alan, I'd come over here, shake him, scream at him, just trying to get him to fucking eat something. God, that was awful.
It was awful for me, too.
Yeah, well, you weren't the one who had to identify his body all bloated.
They wouldn't let me. I wasn't family.
Welcome to the actor's side. Well, she's been nominated for the first time. Should have been more than one, but I'll get into that. But for the first time for an Academy Award as Best Supporting Actress. Terrific performance, first of all, in this movie, The Whale, for which you're nominated. Also in The Menu, out there right now. So great in that. And at Cannes, I saw her in another movie this year. I mean, you are in a lot of... You're working a lot, like, lately. Welcome to Hong Chau.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, I had a really great run of movies in 2021. I got to do The Whale, and then Showing Up, which you're talking about, in The Menu, and also Wes Anderson's movie.
Which you shot. Which is coming out this year in 2023.
I think so.
Asteroid
City,
yeah. Can't wait for that. What's really interesting, looking at your filmography and what you've done, you pick the right projects with directors that are extraordinary. I mean, you really seem like a magnet for these great movie directors now.
I didn't pick them. I'm very glad that they picked me. I feel like it's all happened really organically, and it's based off of work that the directors have seen me in previously. Like with Showing Up, Kelly Reichardt saw me in an indie movie I did called Driveways,
which I loved.
Thank you.
It's Brian Dennehy's last film. It was such a sweet movie. It was so good. Yeah. And you were all so good in it. Very tiny little indie, but just so
I really wanted to work with the director, Andrew Ahn, because I had seen his first feature, Spa Night, and I was so happy that we got to work together.
Yeah. I mean, right off with your first film, Paul Thomas Anderson's not a bad way to start.
No,
right?
Not too shabby.
Inherent Vice. What do you learn when you're on a set with a director like that, a cast like that, and it's your first time around the block there?
Well, I got so lucky with Inherent Vice because I had a small part, but I got to start on the very first day of filming, and they just kept me on and moved my scene around and kept bumping me. And so I finished on basically the last day, so I got to see everybody come through, all of those wonderful actors, and I got to see them work. You cannot pay for that kind of experience, so I'm so grateful. It really set me up. Paul likes to shoot a lot of takes, so you really learn to pace yourself and to keep up with everybody.
So as an actor, do you get all ready to do your take, and then all of a sudden they go like, oh, we got to move that to the next day or something? Is that what happens?
It's all part of the process, you know. Paul is very particular about things. He does a lot of oneers, lots of long takes, and so all of the elements have to be working correctly for there to be a take that he's happy with. And it was just a really fun way to work. I love doing lots of takes. Wes Anderson does a lot of takes. So it's good to keep that practice going.
Yeah, I just saw the other night in 70 millimeter. They managed to make a 70 millimeter print of Boogie Nights, and Paul Thomas Anderson was there talking about it. In 25 years since that movie came out.
Yeah, isn't that wild that
amazing.
It's been so long? But that's the really wonderful thing about these great filmmakers, that you can just keep revisiting their films and enjoying them, and it doesn't feel like it's been 25 years since Boogie Nights, right?
Right.
Wow. 25 years.
It's like unbelievable. And then, of course, I would say most people regard your big break was Downsizing.
Yeah.
Alexander Payne, another wonderful writer, director. You were nominated for Golden Globe, SAG, a Critics' Choice, all kinds of things. Everyone was certain that they were right, that you should have been nominated for an Oscar for that one, too. And such a great performance, such a great character, and such an interesting movie.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
was that
saying
fun
that.
to do, Downsizing?
It was more than just fun. Yes, it was fun, but yes, it was fun, but it was my first big role. I felt like I had so much to prove, and I was over-prepared for everything. But I also got to bring a lot of my own life and my own background, with my parents being Vietnamese refugees and coming to the United States. I never thought that there would be that confluence of both my personal life and a really great piece of fiction that would come together and play out that way. And Alexander Payne is a director that I love, and it was a dream to get to work with him. So having that be my big debut was really special.
And Matt Damon, not bad.
Yeah, that guy too.
Love scenes.
I know. I was always really embarrassed afterwards during press when people would ask me what it was like to kiss him, and I was like, "He's a married man, you guys."
But his character,
Yeah.
well, he was married too. Now that I think about it.
That's true.
That was such an unusual premise, shrinking everybody down, and, had so much to say about the world.
It really did.
But it's interesting what you just said about that it's so much of your personal life with your parents who, what they call boat people, coming from Vietnam and going to Thailand, which I believe is where you were born.
Yes, I was born in a refugee camp in Thailand. My mother was 6 months pregnant with me when they left Vietnam by boat.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
people have always said that their lives sound like a movie, and I thought that Downsizing was the telling of their story, not beat for beat, but very, very close to it.
So how do you get into acting? With that as the beginning of your life, and I know you went to Boston
University, but not for theater. I didn't study acting.
So it wasn't even at that point.
No, Pete. I never wanted to be an actor. I was a very introverted kid. I grew up watching a lot of TV because my parents worked, and so we were sort of latchkey kids. So I spent a lot of time in front of the TV, and we never could afford to go to the movie theater, so it was anything that I saw was a movie at home on TV or something that my brother would rent from the video store. But because we were, trying to save money, he would always rent these really weird movies that were on sale that nobody wanted to rent. So I would see a lot of foreign films and a lot of just strange indie films, which I guess informed a lot of my tastes early on. So I'm really thankful to my brother for doing that.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would be an actor. I went to school for film. I studied film production at BU, and I thought I would always be on the other side of the camera doing something more solitary like writing or editing. And I found myself taking public speaking classes and improv classes because I was so introverted, and I thought I needed to work on myself, and it somehow snowballed, and here I am talking to you.
Well, that's amazing, though, that you were so scared of speaking, but yet you take those classes that are going to kind of force you to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to barf before every class. I was so nervous. I hated it. I hated going, but I forced myself to go.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And improv is very interesting classes to take if you're going to be an actor, because you've got to be thinking on your feet for a lot of this, particularly working with directors that love improv, that love the actor to do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you can't overthink things on set. You just have to, you've done your preparation, you've done your homework, and then you just have to be present with the other person across from you. And that's what I just try to do, is just to be relaxed.
So what do you look for now? Because you fairly quickly got to a level where they come to you and offer you roles. You know, you don't have to go through that whole audition process for a lot of things, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I've been lucky ever since Downsizing. A lot of the roles that I've done have just been offers, except for The Whale. The Whale was the first time I had to audition for something, and I almost didn't because I was out of practice. It was during COVID. I didn't think I had any shot at the role. I had just had a baby.
Oh my God!
So
for good reasons to
all
turn
of
this
those
thing down.
reasons, I did not think I would audition or throw my hat in the ring for The Whale. But my husband convinced me to do it. Because he said, if you end up getting this part, we're going to make it work, because I was just worried about, being a parent and what that would mean for my little one.
Right. So that's really interesting that you just went in not thinking you were going to get this role.
I didn't think I would get the role because it wasn't written specifically for an Asian person.
Right.
It was based on a play, and in all of the stage adaptations or stage productions, the character had always been played by a white actress. And even when I was auditioning and in consideration for the role, my agent had told me who the other actresses were who were in the running, and they weren't Asian. So I was like, and they were much more famous than me. So I thought, probably not going to happen, but Darren watched my audition.
Sheer talent wins out, that's for sure, because I didn't know that, and I'm watching this movie, and I wasn't at Venice, so I didn't see it. We had somebody reviewed it for us out of Venice. I finally saw it here, actually at the first kind of screening in LA. They had a reception, and there were different people there. And I'm watching it, and I kept hearing Brendan Fraser, all the stuff, the memes, him crying at the Venice Film Festival, all the things you hear. And I'm going like, people need to be talking about Hong Chau here, and you. Samantha Morton, and Sadie Sink. Yeah. What a cast.
Really, truly. It's so rare that you get to work on something where the supporting characters are all juicy and really meaty. We had a 3-week rehearsal period, so we got to watch. Darren wanted to create a sort of like a theater troupe, so we all sat and watched each other work, even in the scenes that we weren't in. We rehearsed in this space while the set was being built, but they had the exact dimensions of the set that we were going to be working on taped on the ground, just like in theater. And we got to really bond with each other and play around with the words and really build that relationship, because the relationship between my character and Brendan's character, there's a lot there, and we had to find that history with each other and find that playfulness that they have between them, but then also the darker parts as well.
She's a character of great contradictions.
Right.
She's complex.
Yeah, she is.
Not just a straight-on caregiver that comes in and trying to help him.
Because when my agent first told me about the role, he said that she was his best friend. And so when you hear best friend, you sort of, already start conjuring things. But when I read the script, I thought, this is not your typical best friend role. I wouldn't even describe it that way. Yeah. She has so much grief that she's also dealing with, and they have this really strange codependent relationship. And all of it made sense to me, because when I look at all of the profound relationships in my life, they're also filled with contradictions, and they're also oddly codependent as well.
Yeah, so that's it. So you bring a lot of yourself into a lot of roles that you play in that way. You can find different ways in based on life experience.
I try to. And Sam Hunter, our writer, also brought a lot of himself to it. He grew up in a very fundamental Christian community and was outed at a young age, and really struggled, and also self-medicated through food. So he put a lot of his personal self in there.
What was it like working with Brendan in that extraordinary kind of performance that he's in? I've talked to Darren Aronofsky. He sat in this exact chair.
Oh,
So
really?
did Brendan. And he says, do not call it a fat suit. So I don't, because it's not. But it is an kind of extraordinary way they've done this. The hair and makeup and everything that went into the creation of that.
I think there was very little visual effects that were done. It was maybe just to straighten out a wrinkle in a shirt or something, but everything that you see was pretty much what I saw in person as well. It was an amazing piece of work by Adrian Moreau and his team. And when we were rehearsing, Brendan, for his own so that he could work his way into it, he wore sort of a weighted vest just so he could have something to resist.
Right.
But something happened once he actually had everything on. I think it really helped him click into it, because I saw a light change in his eyes on that very first day of filming.
Really?
And it was really amazing to witness, and it's one of the exciting things for me as an actor to get to be a part of. I can't explain what happened. I haven't asked Brendan what happened, but it was really special. We could all feel it.
That's really interesting. You mentioned Sam Hunter, who wrote the play. It has a lot of himself in it, although he wasn't a 600-pound guy or anything like that. But there was a lot of his life. Did they allow improvisation on this? Did you work out stuff during that rehearsal period?
I wouldn't say it was improv. It was finding those physical moments between Liz and Charlie. And I personally don't like to improv. I don't like to veer from the script at all, especially with the writer there, and especially in theater. It's very different from film and TV, because in theater the playwright is the most important person, and so you really stick to the script. And I was so grateful for that rehearsal period, because I had just given birth and was so tired, so I really needed that time to really drill the lines. But yeah, there was so much there to mine and to think about. So I feel like doing improv and paraphrasing words would have been a disservice to the script.
Yeah. It did, you look at it and you say, well, this could be a play. You could see where it came from. But I thought it was so cinematic.
I thought so too. I thought so too, because the easy thing would have been to open up the world.
Yeah.
And it was much more difficult to keep it locked in that one apartment and to find ways to still keep it visually and emotionally engaging. That was where the challenge was for us as actors, to make the words really sing and to keep the audience engaged, because we're stuck there. And Brendan, his character rarely moves, rarely gets up, and so we're just planets orbiting him around the sun. And I really give credit to Darren for orchestrating all of that. He worked with Matthew Libatique during the rehearsal period he knew exactly where he wanted to place the camera, and it felt a little restrictive at first, but it all made sense once we saw the finished film. He knew what he was doing, and the editing was so great. I felt like it had a really good pace to it, which was surprising. I wasn't expecting that when I watched it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And props off to them for what you talked about a little earlier, about that it was all white actresses that were auditioning, that had played this role before on stage and everything else. And that's it. Do you think the world is opening up in a different way, that you're not looking at a ethnic role has to be played, that's what you're going to get? You can play anything.
Well, look, I love specifically Asian characters as well. I don't want it to be misunderstood. I love, like, my character in Downsizing. She had a very strong accent.
Yeah, well, and on purpose.
On purpose, but that character was so well written. That's all I want, is a well written character. It doesn't have to be necessarily about the culture throughout the entire film. I think what's the most offensive thing to me is just a poorly written character, period. Bad writing. That's offensive.
That is, yeah. I can, as a critic, I would agree with you.
Yes.
Bad writing is no fun to watch.
No.
But your movies are really fun to watch this year, because the Menu, set largely in a big set, different kind, this ultra restaurant, and you are something in that. First of all, let's talk about the hairstyle. So funny, so cool.
Thank you.
How much of that is you saying, I think this could be great, or...
Well, there wasn't really a lot of physical description about Elsa in the menu. She was just written as a severe Scandinavian woman. That was the only description for her. And I sent some pictures to Mark Mylod, our director, of, what...
Succession, he did.
He did Succession. Yeah. That's why I wanted to work with him. I was a huge fan of Succession. And I sent him some inspiration photos to see, to get his thoughts on it. And he immediately, but very politely, was like, that's not where my head was at. He wanted the character to be very plain, sort of blend into the background, not draw too much attention for herself. And I understood where he was coming from. But I felt like it was a great opportunity to have that character really pop. And so Amy Westcott, our costume designer, who also happens to be married to Mark, was happy to conspire with me against Mark and his wishes for her to be very plain.
Oh, yeah, no, she wasn't plain, and she wasn't Scandinavian either, but she's just so fun. I mean, you have little scenes there at this lunch that we were both just at, Oscar nominees lunch, as we taped this. I ran into David and Matthew, who are the co-presidents of Searchlight, and I said, they said, what are you up to? I said, well, later, Dad, I'm going to be interviewing Hong Chau, one of your stars of the menu, which they released, and they go, oh my God, and they just went on and on, and then I started doing imitations of you from that movie for them. I said, when she leans over and just whispers, she just whispers in the sky, I go like, that was inspired. You just watch those kind of moments that are choices for actors, and you can see what really works,
I wish I could have witnessed your impression of me.
Well, they actually are thrilled because they said, she's in another movie for us right now, Yorgos Lanthimos' And, I believe it's called.
Yeah, we just wrapped. We shot it in New Orleans. Amazing. My dream has been to work with more international directors, so Yorgos Lanthimos is a pretty good start.
He's pretty amazing guy. The Lobster is one of the all-time greats, in my opinion, too, that he did. But he did, oh my God, all these, The Favorite, and
Very unpredictable. He actually screened for us Poor Things, which he shot right before, and so we went into filming, and with that to live up to, we were like, wow.
Wow, that's cool. And then Wes Anderson.
And Wes Anderson.
Another unique talent.
Yes.
Has his own way of working.
I love working with filmmakers who have their own particular voice, and I love jumping into their world. They're very nice whenever we have our initial conversations. They always ask how I like to work, and I'm just like, I'm very happy to just jump into however you want to work.
Right.
I want to enter your world and just get to play, so I've been really lucky.
And on television, too, I should mention all these. You also pick really good television shows. Homecoming, which was a terrific series.
By Sam Esmail, yes.
It's really good.
With television, I think I try to approach it the same way, where I want to work with a very strong showrunner. With Homecoming, it was Sam Esmail, and he directed all of the episodes, so I like that.
That helps. Yeah.
What's difficult about TV is when you have to, bounce from director to director, and you don't feel like you're building that singular relationship. But that was really great on Homecoming. In the second season, same thing. We had a single director who directed all of the episodes. And for Watchmen, we had, of course, Damon Lindelof, who, whatever questions you have, you go to him. And then most recently, The Night Agent is a Sean Ryan show.
I'm looking forward to that. It's Netflix, right?
Yeah, with Sean Ryan, who did Terriers.
It's a political thriller.
It's a political thriller. I play the president's chief of staff, which is a little different, different for me. But I was really tickled by the thought of playing the president's chief of staff. I was like, okay.
Right. You want to go in and shake things up, right? That's what makes it fun and interesting, and makes you not want to I don't want to do that role. We're so glad you did The Whale, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to.
That you didn't listen to those 4 reasons that you had not to do it. And the Menu's so well deserved. All of this recognition, BAFTA, Oscars, all that. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Pete.
Hong Chau, thank you for joining us on the Actors Side.
Thank you.